From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has won the Turkish elections. This according to unofficial results so far released by the Turkish government. Erdogan's alliance received 53% of the vote. His main challenger, Muharrem İnce, of the secular CHP, has just under 31%. Some 59 million voters, including 3 million living abroad, were eligible to vote in this election, and more than 180,000 ballot boxes across the country. The elections are expected to usher in a new era in Turkey's modern political history. This is because the country's constitutional referendum on April 16 last year approved the expansion of the power of the president. A total of 6 candidates from 8 political parties participated in the race, including President Erdogan. And President Erdogan can be seen here voting at a polling station in Istanbul. Erdogan is the most popular but also divisive leader in modern Turkish history. It is he who moved the elections forward from November 2019. His justification for doing so is that now that he has won, his new presidential powers will enable him to better tackle the nation's mounting economic problems.
The election's unofficial results have been determined. In accordance with this, our people have given us the job of carrying out the presidential and executive posts. By giving the People's Alliance and the AK party the majority in parliament and therefore the legislative authority, they have given us a great responsibility.
Erdogan also hopes to seize on his victory to ramp up his campaign in southeast Turkey, along with neighboring Iraq and Syria, against Kurdish leftist groups.
With the support we received from our people, we will continue and give strong response to those who threaten our country through terrorist organizations within and outside our borders.
Erdogan's closest rival, Republican People's Party presidential candidate Muharrem İnce, can be seen here voting at a Yalova polling station alongside with his wife Ulku. The Republican People's Party, also known as the CHP, is a Kemalist social democratic political party, initially formed in 1919 by the founding father of modern Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. It is the oldest political party in the country and is currently the main opposition to Erdogan in the Grand National Assembly. Thanks to a series of strong campaign rallies, İnce galvanized Turkey's long demoralized and divided opposition during pre-election rallies attended by thousands of people. Competing with İnce was Meral Akşener, the leader and candidate of the Good Party. She can be seen here casting her vote in an Istanbul polling station. The Good Party is a newly formed nationalist, liberal, conservative and secular political party. They were looking to gain votes from disenfranchised Erdogan supporters. Akşener was the only female candidate in the race. She was an interior minister but broke from Turkey's main nationalist party, the MHP, over its alliance with Erdogan. Turkey's jailed pro-Kurdish opposition candidate Selahattin Demirtas cast his vote from prison. The People's Democratic Party leader faces a sentence of up to 142 years in prison if convicted for terrorism charges. He strongly denies all accusations leveled against him. Demirtas' wife, Basak, also cast her vote at a polling station in the predominantly Kurdish city of Diyarbakir, also known as Ahmed in Kurdish. With virtually no media coverage of him or his party, Demirtas has got his message out through social media, party colleagues, and his wife, who regularly visits him in Edirne, in the prison near the northwestern border with Greece and Bulgaria. Despite their loss to Erdogan's AKP, HDP supporters broke out in celebrations in the predominantly Kurdish city of Ahmed on hearing the news that their party had surpassed the 10% vote threshold, enabling them to once again enter parliament. Ahmed was one of the sites of a violent crackdown against the country's Kurdish population in 2016, despite the fact that their leader, Selahattin Demirtas, has been jailed on pending terrorism charges. The population here today have something to celebrate. This follows earlier warnings from Demirtas made during a scheduled 10-minute election address allotted to all candidates on state TV from his high-security prison.
If the HDP does not enter the parliament and doesn't exceed the world's highest threshold of 10%, not only the HDP but also Turkish democracy will suffer a heavy blow, and the AKP would unfairly usurp the seats of more than 80 HDP lawmakers.
Turkey's main opposition party, the CHP, have declared that they received multiple complaints of voting irregularities. The leader of the main opposition CHP party, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, said after voting in Ankara that civil servants must fulfill their duties in the country's snap presidential and parliamentary elections. CHP spokesman Bülent Tezcan claimed armed people were wandering the streets of the southeastern district of Suruç. That's where 3 people were killed on June 14 after a fight broke out between members of Erdogan's ruling AK party and local shopkeepers.
There are complaints about this issue, particularly from southeast Turkey. Therefore, it's my duty to draw the attention of all civil servants. It's my duty to remind them that they are civil servants.
Armed people are openly wandering the streets of Suruç, threatening the election atmosphere. We are aware of the unfortunate incident in Suruç. They are trying to heap pressure on voters in Suruç.
And Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has congratulated Erdogan on his victory. Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza congratulated the president on his re-election as well as the coalition's victory. Mexicans prepare to participate in elections on July 1st, where they will choose a new president, 9 governors, 500 legislators, and 128 senators. Let's take a look at the development of the electoral campaigns.
The electoral process that began in September 2017 has entered its final stage. The electoral authorities say they are ready for the elections on July 1st. Up until now, more than 700 foreign observers have been accredited.
This election will have more international observers than the elections of 2012 and 2006.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidates have already started their closing campaigns, which should end 3 days before Election Day. The left-wing candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who is leading the polls, has presented a new member of his cabinet, who will join if he wins.
Here in Nuevo León, I want to let you know that I have invited Alfonso Romo to be my press secretary.
López Obrador's popularity is continuing to grow. Juan Carlos Natale, former senator for the Green Party in the state of Puebla, quit his party to join the coalition Juntos Haremos Historia.
I will give them my vote, so this country moves forward. If Morena, PT, and PES don't get the majority, the proposals of the next president, which is going to be Andrés Manuel López Obrador, will not be able to move forward.
At the same time, the ruling party candidate continues to promote the hashtag conscious voting on social networks to try to move up from 3rd place in the polls. Ricardo Anaya, from the alliance México al Frente, continues his campaign of attacks against López Obrador in an attempt to reduce the current 20-point difference.
And thousands of people from across Mexico marched through Mexico City's Reforma Boulevard on Saturday to celebrate the country's LGBTI community. With the country in election mode, many in the parade reject the lack of political will on securing the rights of the LGBTI community across the country. Mexico City is home to the most visible gay community in the country, and however, outside the capital, attitudes differ with an impunity towards discrimination and reports of violence, according to activists.
In general, I think there is no political party who has directly made an alliance with the community. I think it's more of a strategy to have us at rallies, but there is no real strategy or policy for the LGBTQ community. For me, up to now, there is no party that represents the community.
Ecuador's foreign ministry has criticized Colombia for revealing information without verification on the alleged bodies of an Ecuadorian press team kidnapped and murdered by FARC dissidents.
We ask the government of Colombia to begin an early investigation of the facts and to apply sanctions to those whose hasty and insensitive behavior has caused additional psychological stress to the families of the Ecuadorian journalists.
A one-year-old child and a woman have been killed in Managua in the ongoing conflict that has plagued Nicaragua since mid-April, killing at least 170 people so far. The child, Taylor Leonardo Lorio Navarrete, was killed by a stray bullet during an armed attack on the mayor's office in Managua, while police officers were removing roadblocks. Hours later in Masaya, armed and hooded protesters attacked the mayor's office there, killing staff member Carolina de Los Ángeles Collado Delgadillo. Peru's government has declared a state of emergency in 11 Andean regions due to the drop in temperature that has already killed 150 people and is causing economic losses.
Andean regions of southern Peru are experiencing temperatures of negative 15 degrees, which has affected more than 35,000 people with respiratory illnesses. According to the Civil Defense Institute, 150 of them have died. The situation is similar in the jungle area, but in many of those communities there is no government presence, so people have to walk for 3 days to the closest health station.
Sometimes we are not able to get there because of the roads and cliffs. Sometimes we can only go halfway and the kids get worse or even die.
There is not medicine here. Our communities suffer a lot. We are very concerned then about our new reality.
According to official reports, snowfall in the Andean zone has affected more than 800 hectares of land, and with that, the food of at least 100,000 South American camelids. 4,000 died due to lack of response from the government.
We must say that the changing climate and the snowfall are beyond the response capability of the regional governments, but the state must act as soon as possible after this emergency.
According to the National Meteorology Service, this is a very unusual season of low temperatures that is taking place in areas with over 3 miles of altitude, which increases the cold.
We haven't had so much snowfall during our winters as we have now. This is the third snowfall all season we've had this year, and they're coming more often.
Can we expect more of them?
I think it's possible.
The government declared a state of emergency in 55 districts of 11 regions, which means that it must activate backup systems in different sectors and invest more to help the affected communities.
We'll take a short break now, but join us again after this video from our multimedia team. Welcome back. Now let's turn to our Russia World Cup 2018 update. England has beaten Panama 6-1 and destroyed the dream of the Central American team of making it to the next round in Group G. Harry Kane with a skillful hat-trick, John Stones and Jesse Lingard led the way for the Three Lions, who are now into the next round. Despite this, Panama managed to score its first goal at a World Cup by Felipe Baloy. In Group H, Senegal tied 2-2 with Japan. Sadio Mane opened the scoring in the 11th minute, and later Japan equalized with a goal from Takashi Inui in the 34th minute. On the second half, both teams scored again, one by Honda and one by Wague. Also in this group, Colombia won 3-0 against Poland, who are now eliminated. Yerry Mina scored at minute 40. Radamel Falcao, the country's all-time scorer with his first goal at a World Cup, earned it at minute 70. And Juan Guillermo Cuadrado sealed it off at the 75th. Mexico City has broken the Guinness World Record for simultaneous football playing, with over 1,000 people attending. According to Guinness, 1,083 people registered to play table football at the same time, breaking Germany's record of 1,000. The new world record comes amid the World Cup frenzy in the country after the team beat Germany and South Korea in Russia.
Es algo muy curioso, se establece una nueva categoría a nivel mundial específicamente para este título, el mayor número de personas jugando futbolito simultáneamente. Quiere decir que México apertura con 1,083 participantes, para que de aquí en adelante quien quiera participarlo tiene que superar 1,083.
Por supuesto, el hecho de que también México ya esté, digamos, virtualmente clasificado también ayudó mucho a poder lograr el récord, ¿no?
Loved by some and hated by others, referees are as important as players. Their role is vital for football, but very little is said about them.
Just one single man in the field is responsible for ensuring that the other 22 follow the rules. Mexican referees have been present in some of the most important football games.
In order to participate in the World Cup, Dr. Edgardo Codesal trained in a school and he refereed in one World Cup final.
Very little is said about their skills or what is really required to be a good referee.
One must control the player's adrenaline. That's difficult, so you must be passionate and have psychological and physical skills alongside knowing the referee rules.
However, they are always noticed in the field. Their decisions often thrill or upset both players and fans.
The referees don't score, that's not their task, but they'll always be criticized and they may even be the most hated.
The job of the so-called Men in Black are also part of the evolution of the sport over recent years. Women have also been included in professional football.
I've noticed that they like a woman taking control of the game. It's as if sexism is coming to an end by the day.
Mexican referees say that in neighborhood matches, as well as in Russia's World Cup, there must be only one absolute winner, fair play, to which they dedicate their lives.
And to end our World Cup coverage for today, let's take a look ahead at tomorrow's games. Uruguay will play against host team Russia, and Saudi Arabia will face Egypt for the early matches in Group A. Spain will face Morocco, and Iran will meet Portugal in Group B. And to Bolivia now, after a month of violent confrontations at the hands of university students demanding higher public spending, there appears to be no solutions, even though the government has raised the subsidy by $10 million.
Here we see members of the University of El Alto protesting in the city center of La Paz, demanding a budget increase for the public institution. And yet the government has offered to raise their budget by some $10 million.
We have sent a letter to the Assembly, forwarding the assignation bill of the 70 million Bolivianos to the UPEA budget. On the screen, you see this is an article that authorizes the Economy Ministry to grant the 70 million that we have offered.
Over a week ago, dialogue was suspended. The parties involved are making requests for negotiations to continue, but the government is also demanding that pressure measures be suspended as well.
We have responded to the letter that they have sent us the other week, telling them that every negotiation has to come with the suspension of pressure measures. We can't keep on negotiating with marches or roadblocks.
The university also wants to restore dialogue with their students, teachers, and administrative workers.
This is what they are asking, to stop the protest. This will happen tomorrow, but we have experience on this already. They make us stop and there is no progress.
The university is demanding to raise their budget not by 10, but in $100 million, which would mean, according to the government, the university takes 40% of the entire state budget meant to subsidize 11 public universities.
In El Salvador, the National Liberation Front, or FMLN, held its 35th National Convention over the weekend to discuss coalitions for the 2019 presidential elections. More than 800 people participated in the convention. The FMLN will fight to secure a third left-wing government and believes that a people-centered approach is vital to securing it. The presidential candidate, Hugo Martinez, said he's open to alliances with other parties.
We're going to consult with the members and the bases of the party to see how far these alliances will go and with who and when these alliances will take place.
And thousands in El Salvador are voicing their rejection for the privatization of water in the country after the announcement of the approval of the Integral Water Act from the right-wing legislators that grant the management of water to private companies.
Dozens of union workers marched to reject the privatization of water in El Salvador. The Environment and Climate Change Commission of the Legislative Assembly, with a majority of right-wing legislators, have proposed that the regulatory body that controls water will be private.
Water can't be managed by businessmen because they are businessmen. They only think about profits. Obviously, they won't care about the Salvadoran people.
The destination of the march was the headquarters of the right-wing party, Arena, whose legislators have withdrawn 92 articles of the General Water Act that had already been recognized and were of benefit to the people. Today, they have approved 5 articles that propose that the management of water be in the hands of the private sector.
We want them to bring back the General Water Act presented by workers and the Water Forum, a project that guarantees water for all the Salvadoran people. They have it in the shelves in the Legislative Assembly. For that reason, we are fighting for the Salvadoran people.
Since intentions to privatize became public, more than 70 organizations, including environmentalists, universities, churches, and workers, joined to create the National Alliance Against the Privatization of Water.
If Arena says they have no intention to privatize water, they should start by ratifying Article 69 of the Constitution, which looks to guarantee water for everyone. Then we will believe them.
President Salvador Sánchez Serén rejected any attempt promoted by the opposition parties to privatize water management and qualified it as a serious threat to the country.
We'll take one last short break, but join us again after another video from our multimedia team. Thanks for joining us again. Italy has turned away another migrant ship just as European Union leaders headed to Brussels for emergency talks on migration. The talks involve 16 of the EU's leaders who are meeting to discuss how to share the responsibility of incoming migrants and to support German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who is being criticized at home for her liberal approach to asylum. Scuffles broke out on Sunday as a far-right march was countered by Antifa in Melbourne, Australia. The larger protest, organized by Antifa, called on Australians to reject racism and fascism in an increasingly polarized Australia. A spokesman for the army and the popular committees in Yemen, Brigadier General Sharaf Luqman, has said that the US, Britain and France are looking for a way out for the Saudis and Emiratis. They are arguing that the coalition could be in trouble. The US-backed bombardment of Yemen began in 2015 as a result of the continued attacks on infrastructure the country is facing the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, with aid in short supply and a cholera epidemic. General Luqman explained in an exclusive interview with U News in Sana'a that they are defending themselves in the face of a huge military with the latest weapons as well as air and sea control.
We defend ourselves when we are attacked, but we do not have an air force, and we do not have an alliance opposite to the coalition of aggression. So, as Mr. Abdul Malik al-Houthi said, we will enter with them in a battle of attrition.
Before we end today's show, remember you can watch our special World Cup program with Argentina football star Diego Armando Maradona. De la mano del 10, the World Cup according to Maradona. It will air only on Telesur every night during the World Cup in Russia. These are the times to watch it, so don't miss out. And with that, we come to the end of this news brief. But there's another stories, as you know, you can find on our website, telesurtv.net/English. And be sure to follow us also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.
We are present at every event where our nations are staring. We believe in a new global vision, united in every broadcasting. We keep expanding our horizons